Do good work is not a label, but a way of living. It is the constant and diligent effort to achieve a new level of excellence in one's own life. It is the hidden inner beauty behind the struggle to achieve excellence. It's not perfect, but imperfect. It is the effort, discipline, and focus that often goes unnoticed. The goal of Do Good Work is to highlight that drive. The guests I have on this show emulate this drive in their own special way. You'll be able to apply new ideas into your own life by learning from them. We will also have one-on-one episodes with me where we'll dive into my own experience with entrepreneurship and leadership. Every episode is designed to provide you with ideas that you can apply and grow in excellence in all areas of your life, business, and career. Today we have Dr. Raul Sánchez, who specializes in clinical child and adolescent psychology. He's been practicing since 1999 in community mental health centers and in group private practices. He also runs the Renewing the Mind Clinic and is involved in men's ministries, prison fellowship ministry, as well as teaching men's parenting and marriage conferences. He believes that all can renew their minds by following the 3 stages or 3 steps that he teaches. The first being renewing your perspective, the second, moving towards uncertainty, and the third, finding what's awesome about every situation. His story is remarkable, and I hope you enjoy our conversation here today. So, I've been researching you and then listening to your podcast, and we'll dive into that in a bit. But I know, for me, statistically speaking, I shouldn't be here, right? I shouldn't be, where I'm at with business, with entrepreneurship, whatever, right? Statistically speaking. And I know for you, your story, it shatters statistics. And I'd love to dive a little bit more into your journey. You can share that a little bit with our audience.
Yeah. Just if I start at University of Iowa, my advisor, Inadina Vasquez, grabbed me one time because she saw me looking for, I like cafe bikes. That was a good one. And she brought me to the office. I need to see you now. And she's a little spitfire. And she literally sat me down and she drew 1% on a piece of paper and handed it to me. She goes, "Do you know what this means?" And I'm like, 1%? She's like, "Do you know what this means?" And I was like, "Okay, what?" She's like, "There are less than 1% of Latinos who have a PhD who are going back into work with children." She's like, "You're not freaking getting a bike." I was like,
oh my gosh.
Okay. You're dead serious about this. And she was like, and her husband, Luis, has a PhD. And there's my supervisors. They took me under their wing at Iowa. And she was like, "Do you want me to ask Luis?" I was like, "No, I got you.
Oh my gosh.
Bring that in, So that really, at that moment, it really tied everything all the way back to me as a child, having, being fatherless. So my story is my dad suicided. And so don't know a lot about the family history. My guess is bipolar, for sure, alcoholic, for sure, lots of addiction, and literally what we call today a broken brain.
Wow.
So then we move up to Iowa. My grandma decides to come up and bring a restaurant up. She moved up with some of her sisters, and literally four women started a bunch of Mexican restaurants in Iowa.
Wow.
And obviously it took off, and it was kind of more the Tex-Mex stuff because they threw lettuce in, tomatoes in, as my grandma would say, for the hueras, and just to make it good, So, but that's us. We move up here, and I live with my grandma a little bit, and my mom is a single parent. She has 2 kids, and my mom just killed it, just held down 3 jobs. And then the story is really said, so 4 father figures.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's boyfriends, and then my siblings' dads. So my stepdad figures, all the same thing: alcoholic, brain broke, uneducated, dropped out, and just in and out of jobs. The revolving, job cycle, especially for a minority male, because they just tended not to get the breaks because you have to prove yourself to be a harder worker.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's already doing the job and he knows a buddy and you come in by yourself. There's just all those little pieces, some political stuff. So, and I'm not trying to, start any fires or anything. I'm just saying that's, as a kid, I can see their struggle. And so I knew like, man, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm definitely not going to be that guy. So from an early
When
age,
did you make that decision?
I remember being young, like, so, second grade.
Wow.
In
From
second,
then you knew.
in the second grade, I knew because I would come home, and see my stepdad drunk laying on the couch, like passed out. And some days I would just really quickly drop my stuff off and go, and I'd go to my friends' houses and I see their dads come home, some of them with suits and briefcases. I'd see some of them coming home with like mechanic stuff, dirty hands, and I saw that they had a nice house. I saw they had nicer cars. I could see the difference. Like, man, these parents work and my stepdad doesn't. So I just started like, what am I going to do? How am I going to work? So the crazy thing is I just started working in the yard. I had a buddy, his dad was a mechanic. He was always working on mopeds because he had older brothers. I'd just go down and help. I just jumped in everywhere I could, anywhere I could. My grandma started taking me to the restaurant, and at 10, she would pay me cash to cut all the vegetables and stuff. So I started working the machines, cut lettuce, tomato, I could make avocados, guacamole dip. I could just start doing it. At 14 and we could get paid. So I got a check, and I started working. At 16, I ran the kitchen. I was like, when my grandma took days off.
That's not an easy job.
I was the head dude. No. And
that is not easy.
There were people in the, how it's called nepotism now, but you didn't understand it then. People would snap you with the towel, and some of these older guys who did the dishes, they'd be mad at me and be like, I'm not gonna say, they cuss me out in Spanish, like, because of my grandma, like, here's your grandma,
Yeah.
And so me being me, really stubborn, I would just like, I'm gonna make food, man. I'm gonna take my lunch, like, you handle it. And in particular, there was a dude who was like, got this. So he puts on an apron, he washes up, and he gets in there and he starts going. Before I can even finish my lunch, he's cussing and screaming and yelling at me. And I go over there and I'm like, so you going back to dishes or are you staying? And he just punched me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember the restaurant life. It's usually the front versus the back.
Yeah, correct. And so that was it, man. And I literally took pride in the fact that my grandma would say, do you need me to schedule you help? And I'm like, I got it. So I was like the head dude on Sundays at a restaurant that was very, very busy.
Wow.
I could just knock out, the orders as fast. And my grandma would just say, as long as you don't make mistakes, you can keep it. And it's kind of stupid now to look back. Like, if I had more people with me, I wouldn't have worked as hard, right? Like, that's kind of, but at the moment, just being prideful, whatever, like, I don't need help, Graham. You know what I mean? And so it's that work ethic that then spilled into my athletics, also spilled into my academics. And then that's the piece that pushed me into, who I became with the PhD in psychology.
That's incredible, man. And you've covered so much ground with that, not only just like the internal decisions that you made, but the work ethic that carried over, because you got to college through a scholarship, right?
Yes. A scholarship to play football.
So it's
North Dakota State. So we won a national championship back in 1990.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This old school.
You got to do it, man.
I fly leather helmets, but it's old school.
It's old school, man. But you did that. You were raising your firstborn son, correct, during the time?
Yes, correct. So the big issue is what the big hurdle for us also, on top of what I talked about, is at 16, my girlfriend told me she was pregnant. And actually, on our podcast, we have a story called Who We Are, where we really walk through that Planned Parenthood decision and a lot of pieces like that. But basically, my sister got me out of school. We got Stacy out of school. We went to Planned Parenthood and they told us that she was pregnant. And we sat in the car and cried for a couple hours trying to make a decision. We're 16 years old. We're both in high school. She had plans to go to college. I had plans to go to college. Like, you just don't know what to do. But we both decided, abortion wasn't the issue for us. Decided to contemplate a little bit about adoption. And as soon as I let that go off my head, like, what about adoption? I couldn't do it. And the thing that kept breaking me is like, why in the poop would I infect my kid with fatherless disease that I have? Like, there's so many times just to break down a ball, so many times just to be in a swimming pool and somebody makes fun of your trunks and you just punch them in the face and just start beating the snot out of somebody because, like, there's so much anger inside of, like, being abandoned, Yeah. And so I'm sitting here at 16 seeing all these little pieces and I'm bawling, partly because, I'm going to be a father, and partly because, like, man, I don't want to leave my kid somewhere with some dude. Like, I just can't do it. He'll just be like me. I fought a lot and I was in trouble for fighting.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, man, he's going to be like me, And so it's really cool is we went over to my wife's, or actually my girlfriend's house at the time, and her parents just had a completely different model, man. They just, They're Christians. They believe the Bible. So he sits down and does a devotion with us about like basically how God turns bad things into good. God didn't plan this, but basically he saw it coming, and he's already had some provisions in place, and we got to figure out where that is. And that's not who I am and how I thought back then. So I was like, well, what do you mean? You know, and as we're talking through, it's like, we'll figure out a plan. He didn't have a plan, but just to figure it out. Well, so Stacy, that's my wife's name. That was my girlfriend back then. Her mom was a teacher and had a friend who was a teacher. And it was her teacher friend that just told her one day in a Bible study, like, why wouldn't they just stay at North High? Well, that's our high school. Friend's like, well, I don't know. It's never been done before. And like, well, they could do it. You know, if anybody can do it, they can do it. So she was a star cheerleader. I'm a star football player. Like, so we just like, well, how's this going to look? So we decided to co-parent. So Stacy's mom retired, watched Tyler during the day.
Wow.
And after school, Stacy would go home and then watch Tyler. And after practice and school, I'd go to sports, I'd go to work and, you know, make diaper money, man, you know, just whatever, try to make some cash and go back to school. And on the weekends, Tyler would stay with me. I'd pick him up Friday after practice, and then I would stay home with him on the weekends. And then Stacy would go to work. So she would work part-time on the weekends and have her kid time, which was really amazing how it worked out, because now knowing what I know now, when that happens to young teenagers, young adults, they still have to kind of level up and start to adult. But at the same time, you have to go back and still be a kid.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to do unless you have a break, right? And so what made it successful for us is like there were days when I could still just be like Raul the football kid. And then there were days where I had to be Raul the father. And so it's just like there's days when I could be a football player, and there's days when I could go be the cook, you know?
Yeah.
And so just like normal life, like you just put on a different hat, you just put on a different role. And so it allowed us a year and a half of integrating into parenting. And my mom would help watch Tyler on Wednesdays because my mother-in-law couldn't do it. And so my mom got in on Wednesdays because she worked too, so she couldn't take as much time off. And so together, like literally, you know, the idea that, you know, it takes the whole entire family, like
it's a sacrifice family. That's admirable, dude. That's incredible.
Right. And I'm, you know, aware enough to know that we probably wouldn't have done it just on our own. You know, because she would have had Tyler during the weekdays. I would have had him on the weekends. And at some point we would just got burned out, maybe not made it a couple. Like there's all these pieces. But the crazy thing is like I thought they were going to literally like bring a shotgun out and chase me out. You know what I mean? Just because like you just have that fear, like, you know, bro, I got your daughter pregnant. Like, how does that, you know, like what? Like, I have a 10-year-old daughter, bro, like that. I cannot see myself being so chill about that.
No, neither can I.
Come sit down and let me show you, you know, a Bible verse that I've been praying for you about. And hey, would you like
to know
why you're feeding me dinner, you know?
Wow.
And I knew my mom would blow up because our family history is alcoholism, depression,
my
mind, you know, back in the day, bipolar, you know? And so my mom, you know, has a whole history of teen pregnancies, and my mom, you know, had me as a teenager. So it's that same system that just kind of recycles itself. I told my mom, and my mom freaked. She was like, you know, you're going to be just like your uncles. You're going to be like your cousins. You're going to be just like you know, your dad, you know,
it's heavy
stuff. Slammed my door, cussed me out. And, you know, like 48 hours later, we hug and pray and like, okay, now what, you know, just kind of used that way. But her biggest fear in the world was that like I was going to be, and I don't mean this to sound stereotypical, but this is just what she threw at me. She's like, I don't want you to be, you know, another Mexican in a meat plant, just making dollars. She's
straight
like,
up.
I expected more for you. She's bawling, and she was like, you were the one to get out, like that stuff. Like she had a lot of hope for me to lead the way for my brothers behind me, you know. So I got 2 little brothers and then 2 little baby sisters. And so that like, I realized not at the moment, but I realized a couple of days later, like I let my mom down because like I was the hope who was supposed to like, you know, find a pathway out of our poverty, you know, being on welfare and stuff like that. And so that's the path, man. Football, cooking, parenting, and I was still an all-state running back, you know, and barely had enough grades, man, to get to college.
Oh my gosh. But dude, I want to take a quick pause because you said something really important earlier and you said a lot of incredible things, but I want to take a quick pause as well, is that you mentioned breaks. You mentioned taking a break from not just the adult parenting, but also being a kid and having that integration. Did you know that that was the right decision to make, or was that someone a mentor told you, or someone that a parent told you, or did you just do it because that's what life was?
We just did it because actually we just laid out our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Said, okay, what are you doing today? What are you doing? That kind of a thing. And we really just played out like taking turns. We didn't think of it as a break.
Mm-hmm.
Thought of it as like who's available.
Yeah.
And so Friday night, if my sports or games, especially during football season, it's like, football's out. Every night during the week, I got practice. And then so during the weeknights like that, I literally would go to school. I work out before school, 6 a.m, go to school, practice afterward. And then I would shower and go to work at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I would close, work like, 6 to 9, 6 to 10 or whatever at the restaurant. And by the time we close the kitchen, that's 11. So I'm like, I can't take Tyler in the week. And so we really just worked out that system. And then Stacy worked a couple big shifts on the weekend. And then she'd go to movies with her girlfriends or something because I had Tyler on the weekends. You know what I mean? So it kind of just naturally rolled out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, in my studies, becoming a child psychologist, I realized that ability to take a break, and it's no different for adults. Like,
yeah,
like moms, for example, who have 2 kids under age of 5, have an 80% chance of having postpartum depression. Just because they don't get a break, like they've lost their identity. So like you're no longer Stacy, like you're just mom.
Mm-hmm.
So mom feels overwhelming and suffocating. So, but you can't ever click back into Stacy, and that can happen for a single parent dad. That can happen for a dad with young kids.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back, I was like, wow, that was genius. So it just happened because we bounced Tyler around enough to figure out like who's doing what.
The balance, it worked out there, but it's also it's ingenious because even like with parenting or even with running a business, or like it as well, running your clinic, having playtime, having fun, having time to relax can be probably the most productive thing you can do.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely, positively. And it's funny now that I teach this to most men who are successful, and I coach a lot of successful business people.
Mm-hmm.
Really coach them so much on the business angle. That's your job, by the way, man. Your book, just dude, I can't get enough of it. All over the crap, but it's just like, yeah. Anyways, that'll be another conversation. But I tell them this, like, dude, you need to find a hobby. And my hobby is archery. It's standing meditation. You just stand and meditate as you're shooting archery.
Wow.
And I take buddies of mine, big powerful people, and we go shoot. And I get a text a day later, like, bro, what was that? And
what do you mean standing meditation? How does that work?
Yeah. So you're standing and you have to control your whole entire body.
Okay.
Your eyes are focused only on the target.
Mm-hmm.
As you're focused on the target, you don't think about you. You're outside of your head. You're outside of who you are and all your stress in the world. And you fling an arrow and you're like, oh, my hand was off. Oh, my head. And then you really click back into you as far as just relaxing. And so what happens is you melt away and you really become one with this arrow. And as you really work on your breathing and this cycle of breathing, you do so much breathing work as you're shooting target archery that what happens is you're very peaceful. And a day later, people text me and they'll be like, bro, what was that? And I go, what was what? And it's like, I don't know how to explain it, bro. Like my wife said that whatever I did, I need to do it more. And I'm like, bro, that's standing archery, bro. Like,
that's incredible.
And yeah, so Ted Nugent has a thing, and sometimes I use it, and he goes, bro, that's the mystical flight of the arrow, as only Ted Nugent can say,
Yeah.
So stole that from him. I was like, bro, it's the mystical flight of the arrow. Like, what does it even mean? Like,
once you know, but so it's more body control, focus, and so you also have to visualize the target, right? You have to control yourself, visualize. Does that play a role also with some of the work that you do in like your clinics?
Yeah, absolutely. So that transitions into, I talk about move. Okay. So just the word move. Okay. MOVE. So we have MOVE. So the M is music. And if you jam out to music, it makes you move, right? Music just does something different. I like to cook and I like to, so I'm a bow hunter. So I take deer, the whole field to table, the whole fork to plate or field to plate thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you get music in there, it's like a little symphony. You're cutting up meat and you're preparing it for fajitas or something, and it's just magical, right? But even beyond that, like if you're working out and you start to feel a little down, if you go back and play a teenage playlist, so I'm gonna date myself, but like I'll go back to Def Leppard sometimes.
And a Def Leppard.
Okay, I'll go back to Michael Jackson's greatest hits.
Are you stealing my CD album right now? Because so this is the thing. This is the weird thing. So when I was a kid, everyone was listening to like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I had Def Leppard in my CD when everyone else was listening to that. So let me just put it out there.
Yeah. You know, we got the same name for a reason, right? Like, yeah. So, but listen, one day I just like, I don't feel like working out, you know? So I'm like, I'm just gonna do a little bit of jump rope.
Okay.
And I started jumping rope a little bit and my ankles were sore. And I was like, you know, I'm not feeling this, you know? And then we have this thing called there's 2 times, right? There's 2 times to work out, when you feel like it and when you don't. So I'm like, I'm not gonna freaking quit. So I changed the playlist and I went to Michael Jackson and I just went, Michael Jackson greatest hits. I haven't listened to that in a long time. I started jumping ropes and before I know it, dude, I was 40 minutes in. And I was like 40 minutes and I was just like dripping off my ears, jumping rope. I made it like an hour and like 6 minutes just because it was a different playlist.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
And so this was like your childhood playlist, is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. So I remember, you know, I used to jam to that stuff in middle school, right? So because what happens is you had different energy back then.
Mm-hmm.
You put your music on, it kicks you back to the different energy. It's amazing. So then the move steps, so that's music, because music gives you movement. Okay. Then the second one's outdoors. So if you just get outdoors, like we're finding out with COVID, 19, like if you just get some sun, you literally reproduce more vitamin D, which is more energy, which is more mitochondria, creating ATP, which is your body burning calories, which means you're going to fight this thing off.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nuts. So if you just get outside and sit in a rocking chair, get outside and sit under a tree, take a walk, just get outside, you're moving. Okay.
Okay.
Then the next one is V, and this comes back to our visual system that you just mentioned, like how does this look, and in the visual system, this is super important. Like this is probably going to be the biggest thing I say today. The visual system is based on the RAS, which is the reticular activation system. That ties in the spinal cord, that ties in the brainstem, the cerebrum, which is your ability.
Like back here?
Yeah, the cerebellum in the back, right?
Okay.
And the cerebrum, which is the forehead, like your focused thinking. This thing ties together your ability to see, your ability to sense, your ability to make movement, and then your ability to forecast like future movement, coordinated movement. So
contingencies, like archery, okay.
Like archery is this whole RAS system. Now, if you can't see it, you can never get there. Like the Bible says, without a vision, the people perish, right? If you don't have a vision, where are you moving? Where are you going? Like what's your deal? But here's the thing, I say it like this, like if you can't see it in your head, you will never hold it in your hand.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
If you can't see it in your head, you will never be able to put your hands on it. Never. Because when people, and you know this, like when your book came out and people are like, bro, how'd you get here? And you're like, you don't have words, because you're like, I remember the day I thought about this and I saw the picture in my head and it's here, but it's unreal. You get that?
Yeah.
And when I get people to click into a dream and they say it, it changes the whole mentality. Like they might be saying, I don't have enough money, man. Like, none of that stuff ever works out for me. I get them to just line out a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they say that, I'm like, how would that make you feel when you put your hands on it? And it hits. And when it hits, it's a gut reaction. That just busts through all the head fear, all the
gut reaction. It's interesting that you mentioned. So that's more like instinctive, like that's part of who we are, or is like that's because I remember when so this is just me. I know like when I do my endurance workouts or something, I might be like flat out tired, but either I visualize or remember something, I get super pumped. And out of nowhere, I instinctively clap twice and then I move towards whatever I'm doing. I don't know why I do it. It's the weirdest thing ever. But so what's the gut thing? Is that more like a response? Is that?
Yeah. So the gut is, they call that the second brain. Okay.
Huh.
And the second brain has 100 million neurons. Our big brain has like 1 billion. Okay.
Okay.
Here's what's crazy. The data though flows in this big brain to the little brain 10% of the time. 90% of the time, the little brain is sending data to the head, the big brain. So all the time we're getting gut instincts. All the time we're getting intuition. All the time, like, dude, I should give him a call. He'll probably won't answer.
So we logically shove that off. Is that tied to like the microbes living in our gut due to the food that we eat?
100%.
No way. So I can train myself to think better if I eat better.
100%.
Okay.
and this data is just coming out. You know what I mean? Like, so this is a whole nother piece, but we'll finish with so that's the visual system.
Mm-hmm.
And that RAS system, like nothing happens in my life that I don't like visualize and plan. And for me personally, in my morning routine, I wake up, I see that as like my fueling station. So I have called the significant 6, where I do 6 things every single morning. And I see that as like me being empty every morning. And I see that as like God pouring into me, and he fills up my cup so that I can come out and pour out. And Incredible. If God gave it to me and I pour out, I ain't trying to get paid. I ain't trying to be like Raul owes me. I ain't trying to be like that dude never gives me anything back, because people go all the time, how do you pour into people and you never get offended? What I pour them isn't mine.
That's very transcendental, because it's true. You can't give what you don't have, but also where are you being filled from?
Right. So I can't go to God and be like, give it to me, and then hoard it, and I can't go to God and be like, give it to me, thank you, and then go give it away and be like, you owe me.
Yeah. All right.
So I just go and I'm like, God, if you're willing, like, here I am. Yes.
Wow.
And okay, so if you look at the science of this, when they put people through a maze and they get stuck and get lost, okay, when they come out, they do an exit survey, and they basically just ask them a question. Hey, if you could go back to one spot where you made a mistake, pick one mistake, and if you could correct that one mistake, what mistake would it be? And they'll go back and they'll say, oh, where that yellow turn was, I had this feeling that I should go left, but I went right. They're right. And here's what we find out in the research. This isn't my research, obviously, it's just research study, but people know 40% faster if they stick with their gut. They're 40% slower because they have to check multiple lines in their head. Now,
interesting.
Here's what's stupid. I do it sometimes, right? Let's like, you go to a sporting store and I see a good deal on arrows. I'm like, bro, I should buy these. And I think, but I'm gonna go check online real quick just to make sure. And I go home and check online, and I go back and get it, and they're gone.
And the cost of consistency, yeah.
We all do it, right?
Yeah.
And it's so dumb. Like, and this is what comes back to our whole entire life as just, entrepreneurs and helpers, is how do we get people to know, like, knowing is only half the battle, but you got to do.
Yeah.
Like, your thing, do good work. It's all in the doing, bro. Like, if you're not doing it, this never gets reinforced. So if I would have just picked up the arrows and went home and then searched it, I'd have been like, let's go. This is awesome. And now that system is rewarded. So now I become more of an intuitive thinker, doer, right? But since we back all the time, it's always on the back burner. So my brain categorizes it as a second system. But prayer, meditation, my devotion in the morning, my feeling station, that reverses it. And so now throughout the day, then I can go this way throughout the day. But on a day I don't do that, people see me and they go, you okay? You feeling all right? You look different. And inside my head, I know, like, I hit snooze and I didn't do my 90-minute routine. I just did a 30-minute quick one, and I have a little bit, but I'm not full, and people can notice that.
No, I definitely feel it as well myself. I'm really curious. I mean, so is there an E part to this, to the move?
Yes, finally E. So E is exercise.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, the exercise is super cool because exercise is an exchange of identity. So when you think about people, they work out, they yell, they scream, they like huff and puff, and then you just have to you have to gear yourself up to like get over the hurdle or whatever. Whatever. Or if you're running 3 miles, and you're on 2 and your knee starts to hurt, you're like, let's keep moving, bro.
You gotta keep doing, or you're looking up a 30-foot wall and you're like, well, here he goes.
Yeah, and you just don't let yourself quit, right?
Yeah.
There is a different animal inside of us when we work out. There's like this fight dude, like, okay.
Yeah.
So for me personally, when I was in high school and I had a football, I was a star football player. One of the persons who did an article on me said Raul the Jewel, just because like it's easy to say my name, Raul, like the jewel, and that stuck. So I go to college, it's like, oh, you're the big jewel, So the jewel is that's my dude. So when I'm working out or I'm running a hill and I want to quit, I slow down and I'm like, this is just me, okay? So I say, you're the freaking jewel, like, suck it up. Quit being a baby. And I talk to myself like that. And all of a sudden that mindset comes out of me and I can flip the switch and boom, I'm on. But like doing work, like, hey man, I should call Raul, man. Like we should, I got this business idea. He'll probably say no. See, I'm in my head now. I talk myself out of it. So when you work out, when you exercise, there's this intimate exchange of identity. So like, I'm not Raul, this is the jewel. And so the more I work on the jewel, the more that dude comes out into me in real life.
To break through barriers that you mentally block yourself, that you should be following intuition.
Correct. And here's the thing, like we exchange higher serotonin, which that decreases anxiety, increase higher dopamine, which that makes us motivate. And then we increase higher norepinephrine, which by the way, that's my favorite. Norepinephrine is focus. So you can motivate, you can be anxious, but bro, if I'm focused, I don't worry about either one of those two.
Yeah.
Right? Norepinephrine comes from oxygen, from breathing. And so the faster, more you breathe, you oxygenate better. And so when you exercise, you exchange your identity, like the dude I don't want to do it thing. Two times, dude. Like there's 2 times to suck it up, like when you want to and when you don't.
Oh my God. And that's me in the morning.
All day, right? All day. It's like always like that. You know, it's like, oh, I don't want to put my shoes on. I'm like, I don't want. But see, then every time you do it, you're like, man, I feel so amazing when I do that.
It's true. Right? It is true. It becomes addicting.
You've exchanged your identity. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Move steps. So that those 4 move steps, right? Music, outdoors, visual system, visualize, and exercise. Each one of those independently renews your mind because it takes you out of your pity party and you give you a new brain, new mind. And so if you really all week did one of those, so all week you did one of those in every single situation, you literally would renew your mind all the time.
That's incredible. That is incredible. I'm literally taking notes with everything you're saying right now because I'm going to test this. I'm going to put it into play.
Yes. And please let me know your feedback because obviously that helps me then teach more people because I'm like, hey, there's just a small percentage of people who think like this and you could do it too because otherwise the research, you know, as you say about research, the research, if it's a significant study, is this the majority of people? And so if there's 49% of the people who don't, 51% of the people who do, we can write a successful study and say, people think this way. And everybody goes, oh, I must suck. No, you're in the downside of that, right? Okay, now that's still a big percentage of people. Even if that's like 35% of people, that's still huge. And just because I'm not typical doesn't mean I'm like broken or wrecked or imaged, right? And so my job is helping people discover who they are despite on what side of that is. You know, I've never been on the typical side of life, right?
Yeah.
And so what's typical is who I am. Like that's typical for me.
But it's different per person. And you're helping them transform. I'd love to dive a little bit if you want, if you're open to share in the morning. What are those essential 6? What are those 6 that fill you?
Okay. So the first thing I do is I drink a glass of water. And then I move into stretching. So I hop on the floor and
physical water, get that. And that's actually really healthy for you. If, you know, don't quote me on this. I'm not a scientist, but I know that it's really healthy for you if you're looking to maintain a body composition or body weight in the morning, just drinking 24 ounces.
That's correct. Yep. So I drink my first glass of water, probably 10 ounces right away as soon as I get up. And then I go on the floor and I'm really, really weird with this, but I have a handball. It's really hard, not a racquetball. It's a little squishy. It's pretty hard. And I throw it on the ground and then I lay on top of it and I just move it around and it elicits pain. Like
you hit the pain, you hit the spots.
So you hit the spots that kind of just roll through. Oh, that hurts. So I stay there. So I teach my brain like that sucks. It's okay. You got this. And I just keep moving around. And there's some days where I could just like, I literally get up on my feet and kind of push hard because I can handle that much. There's days where I'm like, there's got to be a better way. Like
that's me and my foam roller, man.
It's like so Neanderthal, like there's got to be, you know, but truth be told, I just ordered a muscle gun too. I'm trying to do that, but I can't.
It's a life changer.
I can't. And so I agree. Like, cause my son's like, dude, you still use your old school ball? Like, Dad.
Yeah, I still have the lacrosse ball. Don't get me wrong. I have a lacrosse ball. That's me.
Yeah. So this is like, I'm kind of old school with a lot of things, but on the day my son sent it to me, I ordered a muscle gun. Like, oh, that's a good deal, bro. Like, you know? So, okay. So I roll around on the ball and I stretch. I literally do a lot of stretches. And then once I feel like I'm awake or I'm getting awake, then I move to a massage chair and I lay in there and that heats up my legs and it kind of just pumps blood through. So I just do these like the squeeze thing all through the body. And that's when I start to listen to worship music and I start to praise God. I just start with worship, like who he is, why why would he talk to a little old dude like me? Like, who am I to deserve such an amazing God? Like, and I really just worship, just fall in love with God, like who he is, and just all those big pieces. And then sometimes I thank him for little things, my daughter's things, or like we just went turkey hunting and my daughter, we had the most amazing time. So I just thank him for that, and the fact that she loves to like cut the turkey up and then fry turkey fajitas for, and,
Hey, man.
and like Dad, take a picture of me, and she likes so I just praise God, and then from there, then I go into reading the Bible, and then I read, and then once I read, then I move into prayer. So now I have a lot to be thankful for me. I have a lot to pray for, and I move through that, and then right away I get up and I'll write, and sometimes I'll just write things, and sometimes I'll write a lot. Like I had a lot of journals, and I get a lot of content from my journals.
Like journal reflections, or is it journal? Like, is there specific things that because I know that people will ask this, are there specific journals for specific topics, or what do you write about? Is it whatever comes to mind, or is it a challenge to write 3,000 words, or what is it?
No, it's just a flow thing for me. So literally some days I'll sit there for a while and I put people's names down that I should pray for, that I feel like just pop up in my head. Other times I'm really doing like a to-do list for today at work. Other times, like I'm writing like so fast, like if I'm going to prison and like I have to get this down right now on paper, or like something bad's gonna happen, like I really just like I can't get it out fast enough, man. And the craziest thing in the world, when that happens, I know I hit something big. Like wow, this is a God thing. Like this isn't just for me. This is to teach. This
for me to give. Yep,
for me to give. So. And I write those down, and it's always chicken scratch. And then
I try to read mine. It's so hard.
Yeah, and it just comes out so fast. And then my last piece is protein. So I'll sometimes do a protein shake, but I've kind of out of that step right now. So most of the time it's eggs. So I make homemade hot sauce, and we got a family friend that has free range chickens.
Oh wow!
So we trade homemade hot sauce for organic eggs.
Hey, that's a good deal. It's the best deal right there.
Yeah. So then that's my routine right there. Then I'll drink more water as I head into work, and then I start coffee when I get to work.
You can't go without the coffee, man. Well, I love how you talk about, first of all, not feeling yourself just up, because you're waking up, you're groggy, you might be tired, whatever, but then you start like getting your body into it and going through discomfort, like being uncomfortable, right? I mean, if anyone's been on the lacrosse ball or even the handball or even the muscle gun, like it's uncomfortable. It's just put it plainly. But you're training yourself to do that. And it takes around 90 minutes, the whole thing?
The whole thing takes 90 minutes because, and I do that on purpose, but I didn't start there, but I do that now because it does take 90 minutes for your brain to go through the phases to wake fully up, to be fully conscious and ready to go.
Really?
I've kind of bounced that schedule around. I started going right to the like massage chair or right to worship, but I fall asleep. So I'm like, that doesn't work, so I got to go right to the pain, right to the stretching, right to like kind of shock my body. And I'm ready to take on like stuff. So that's,
and then there's obviously going to be people who say, well, I don't have 90 minutes, but then you do if you wake up early, right?
Right. And so
it's a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. In theory, if you're up and you're listening to a podcast and you just don't go back to sleep, if you are up listening to a podcast for 90 minutes, that would do much better for you than if you like got up and kind of probably like worked out for 20. Because you still want to give that brain the 90-minute time to fire up I always say fire up the kitchen.
Yeah.
You want to give your brain that time. Now, in a really good world, like if you could go one task for your morning routine and then just stay up 90 minutes, that's great. But if you can't, then here's the research. If you're just trying to learn to wake up, just do 15-minute increments. So I would say for like 14 days, wake up 15 minutes early, do one morning. And then 2 weeks after that, add 15 minutes or subtract, I should say, and then add a second thing, and then 15 minutes, a third thing, and then get to 6 things roughly in 90 minutes. And there's your routine.
I love that. And I think that's doable the way that you laid it out that way. It's not just, hey, tomorrow, wake up an hour and a half early. It's going to be progressive.
I do, but for everybody else, like, no, you get 15 minutes.
No, I mean, for me, you challenge me, I'll do it. But
I should try both. Yeah.
What's up?
See what works for you. Try both. See which one works. Like 15 minutes earlier than normal to see how you don't feel groggy. But man, I tell you, if you're a gung-ho person, just jump in, go 90 minutes, do a routine, and then the only thing you have to do now is dial in the routine for you. I know some people work out, like do a full 40-minute workout. That's okay.
Yeah.
I sweat so bad that literally it takes me 2 full hours to stop sweating. So I can't. There's no way. Like my whole family avoids me because I'll like drip sweat from my ear. Like, I'll come up and make a protein shake. I'm dripping off my elbows. Like it's really gross. Like I love me, but that's gross.
As long as you can be honest with yourself.
Do it. So I work out at night. I work out after I get home from work.
I hear you. Yeah, I'm one of those early risers. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk more about the key essential thing that you mentioned earlier in your move.
Okay.
You talked about visual. What is the best way to go about creating that visualization? Because you made it sound super simple. Archery, visual, one target. You can do that standing. Yeah. But is there a tactical behind that? Let's say if it's for, your health or for your mind or for your business or for your career or for your family, what are some of the ways that people can actually start developing those types of visuals that get that gut reaction?
Yeah. So the big picture is, think about this. God created the world, right? His very last creation before he rested was us. And the Bible says that he created us in the image of him and his likeness. Mm-hmm. So we are literally called to create. And there's
co-creators. Yeah.
There's no better thing that renews our whole mind and being when we create something. And just think about something like this. Like you come into your bedroom or you come into your office and you're like, I'm kind of bored of this. And you start moving things around, you create stuff and you're taking a picture, you put a new picture. Once you kind of and all you're doing is just moving, you're just rearranging things. And all of a sudden you come in, you're like, this is amazing. Like it's dumb. But why does that feel so good? Because you created something. And so I say this, people have their creativity line already. Yep. So I got buddies who go out in the woodworking shop and create cool wood stuff. They're creating. I got people who can hop in the kitchen and create a dish. People who go outside and trim bushes like Mr. Miyagi, and boom, they're like super good with their hands and green thumbs and stuff. Definitely not me. Yeah. They got it, right? So what I tell people is this, like grab a piece of paper anywhere in your morning routine, or even like 30 minutes before you're going to bed, like in bed, okay? And just grab a piece of paper and just start asking yourself questions. What would I like to do if I expand my office? Like, how would that look? If I build a new house, what would that look like? If I wanted to get stronger, what piece of my body would I like to target? And it just starts like that. And so
asking those questions, writing it down, reflecting, and then creating a visual. Does it have to be so powerful that it changes you, or changes like that gut? Like how do we inhibit, or how do we activate that reaction?
Yeah. So the idea is you have to get it to where it lines up with what you truly want. But see, people aren't confident enough that they can make it happen. So if I'm working with somebody and they'll come back and they say, either I tried your deal, I tried to draw, I just can't. I'm not an artist. I tried to write, but I get stuck. Like we don't have the money to do that. They get stuck, right? And I take away that and I'll say, okay, let's pretend while we're talking, your boss texts you and says, hey, can we talk? And you just ignore it because you're trying to be respectful to me. You get back in your car, you're sitting in the lot in the driveway, and you text back, and then he calls you and you're talking, and then your supervisor says, yeah, I talked to you, or your supervisor gave it word to your boss and says, I'll just use Stacy, my wife's name. So why don't you use Stacy? I think she's good for this. And so then she gets the phone call and says, what do you mean? What am I good for? I said, well, guess what? We're opening a brand new wing, and we want you to develop a team, and we want you to decide whichever arm you want our company to go in, it's you. What happens is you should see their face. I'm not kidding. When I say that to them, like if your boss calls you and asks this type of question, their face just sits back and they just open up and they go, oh man. And they start to smile and laugh. And I'm like, what was it? Share it. And they're like, I've been thinking about this for years. But see, they don't let themselves go there. Why? Because people believe in this concept called false hope. Like, well, if I believe that, then I'm just going to get myself like all fired up for nothing because it's not going to happen. And then they shut themselves down.
They're defeated before you start.
That's correct. So they see that vision and then they go, yeah, but I don't want to make myself disappoint, so I'm not going to do it. And this comes back to the fundamental thing that I butt heads with a lot of people with my degree or at my stage. And one of the things that I've heard about me is like, be careful with him. He pushes a lot of false hope, or he breeds a lot of false hope. Just from me, period. I don't even believe that's a real thing. Like, I think that's an oxymoron. Like, can you have false hope, or do you have hope? Not have hope. Like, if you don't have hope, you don't believe it's going to end well.
It's true.
If you have hope, you believe no matter what comes, it'll be okay. I don't know what false hope is. It's just my opinion. I mean, like, and so I teach that with my kids. I teach it with my family. I teach that with my clients. And I just say, you know, if you have hope, it's there. If you don't have hope, it's not there. I don't believe in false hope. You're either hopeful or you're not. Now, biblically speaking, the Bible says hope does not disappoint. That's a scripture. Like, the hope does not disappoint. Okay? Isn't that crazy?
That's so powerful.
Yeah. Now, the Bible also says hope deferred makes the heart sick. I don't believe in false hope. So when I can get somebody to think and visualize, it's just the right question to unhook whatever's in their way. Like, my boss would never say that. We don't have the money. I have a lot of kids. I don't know where I have the time. And that's where their head shuts it down. But if you just stay on the visual train, all of a sudden, boom, you get this huge epiphany that in your gut, and you unleash some pieces. And then when you feel that, you smile.
You take action towards them.
And you start to take action. Now, remember we said, like, if you can't see it in your head, you will never see it in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Once they see it in their head, now we're making traction. Now we're starting to move. Okay? And now we click into the renew the mind pieces, which is to renew your perspective. So now we can get around their boss. We can get around not having enough money. We can get around not having enough time. And I'm like, okay, so now who do you call to build the building? So now, like, how do you get this degree? I promise you, people come in and with this biggest smile on their face. I'm like, did you win the lottery? And they're like, no. I'm like, what's up? They just get giddy. Like, you're gonna be so happy with me. Like, I got into my master's program. And I jump up and give them a hug and be like, let's go. I said, now what? And they're awesome. Like, now I got to study. This is going to suck.
now it's the next hurdle, the next obstacle, right?
Yeah. The next, like, okay, how's it going to feel when you get to study and get an A on this thing?
Then you got to keep doing it. It's a repetitive process. It's a process.
Correct. And when people say you have to master the process, that's exactly the same thing. But for me, I'm like, you have to master the climb. So I climb to this, cool, celebrate. Climb to the next, cool, celebrate. But no matter if I fail here, nobody can ever take away my climb. That's something inside of me now. That's who I am. I've exchanged that identity. Now I'm climbing. Right? So you put me anywhere, I'll climb. I'll fight. I'll get it. I'll be successful.
Because I absolutely love everything you're saying right now, because it's so true. You create a new baseline, new perspectives, new thing, even if you fail. But the fact you pause and celebrate the wins, you reflect, you enjoy the climb. You enjoy the progress, and then have those momentums where you start seeing, hey, this is actually possible. This is actually working. And then that even gets you more addicted to the process.
Yes. Yes. And as you know, when you help people, when you see them get it, I share that with you, bro. Like I get it. I'm like, oh, let's go. Yeah. You're getting like a little kid. It's like I'm at your birthday party and you got 2 Nerf guns. I'm like, bro, let's go. You know? And you celebrate with them, and what happens is they see you're excited for them, and they'll tell you, you gave me hope. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. I really just took things out of your way. Now, this is strong. Yeah. My friends as a kid, they would say, do you always like dream? Do you ever not dream? Like, Sanchez, do you stop being a dreamer? You know, just I don't know where that came from. But I do know this: when I was scared with, domestic violence, my dad beat the snot out of us and stuff. And so I would escape and I would go climb a tree.
Wow.
And I would just hide up in the tree. And for some reason I felt safe, and I would daydream. Like, I literally dream of things up in the tree. So dreaming was part of my escape. Mm-hmm. And this is what's crazy, what like the world or Satan throws at us for pain, God levels up. Like, he uses it. God can use anything. He literally can. And I think what happens is we blame God for the bad things in our life, when in reality that's just the sucky world that throws crazy crap at us. But if we just give God the chance to be like, I don't know how I got here, maybe it was even my fault, but man, if you could show me some pieces, I'll give you praise. And then boom, these things start happening. So from a young standpoint, I would go daydream about these dumb things and just start to dream. And now that's who I am. I dream. I'm an idea machine. I help people dream. I don't always have the tools. I don't always have the right answers. And I'm honest with people, like, hey, I'm not sure what's right for you. but let's both pray about this. And you're at this crossroads, and let's just see what happens. Start to draw pictures. I'll start to journal for you and see if something pops up in my head, see if God gives me something. And then we just move, just honestly.
Move with hope, even through uncertainty, moving through whatever that is, but it's doing it together, doing it with someone else to help you, but also the fact that you're not, you mentioned it yourself, you're not putting your hope on something dead or something that's not there. You're either, I'm hoping for the best and I'm going to do it as if it were the best, or I'm going to see what happens. And then from there, take it the next move as we progress and move forward towards that direction.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so like the renewing the mind steps, 3 big keys. So renew, move, find. Okay. So I already explained the move steps, but so the renewing the mind piece comes from those 3 pieces. And so the very first step is to renew your perspective. So when people are stuck, I tell them like pretend like you're looking at the clock hands. And so I'm up to 12. And what I do is I have to take a different angle on it. Take a look and ask the same question. Take a look again, ask the same question. Take a look again. So what we're doing is like, what if you had the money? No. What if your boss put you in this position? What if we found somebody to come in and nanny the kids while you could work on this for 2 hours a night? What if, and then something unlocks and they go, wow, okay.
It's possible.
Now we see the vision and now we start to move, and those move steps. So like you're a rock climber. I use the mountain climbing thing just because I think like if I tell people life is calm and like this, I'm lying to them.
Yeah.
Life is like this. And anything worthwhile, you lose ground on. So like I'm finishing a book and I've just been hammering at 4 a.m, and then COVID hit and we have to do different things at the office. So I haven't been getting up at 4, been getting up at 5, but I just push my routine, coming here so I get more energy because I stay longer here. And so I realize I'm not keeping up. So I'm slipping. Like I'm not editing my book as fast as I was, and I'm slipping. And so I'm just like, man, I got to start getting up at 4 again. And so if I let off the climb, I slide.
Yeah,
that's life, right? This isn't life. Like, oh, I made it to here. I can shut down and take a break.
As long as I love paddleboarding, life isn't paddleboarding.
Unless you put paddleboarding in the ocean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that it's just a sucky thing that people have to accept is you battle obstacles all day, all the time. But they're not there to defeat you. They're there to keep you more aware, because when you dodge a few things, the question is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. Okay, we'll beat it and let's go.
We'll keep going.
And this is why when people celebrate, they celebrate so big when they get there, when they know, like I said with you at your book earlier. So that climb piece is, okay, now I have to move toward uncertainty. Step 2, right? And so we're talking about the moving pieces. And here's the idea. I got to North Dakota State. I wanted to play football, and my goal was to be a starter. I didn't become a starter until my sophomore year, but I also went there to be an athletic trainer. And 1 year in, I had really good grades, and I really liked it. I studied my butt off because I had dyslexia. So I literally had to work 3 times as much as people. I hear them say, oh yeah, I studied for an hour, and I'd like study for 4.
Gosh.
I just had to. But what's really funny is like, I realized, man, I don't want to do this no more. Like, this isn't who I am. This is cool. I like the science, but I don't like to wait on people to get hurt. I don't like sweaty people, like stretching hamstrings. Like, I don't like, it's like, I got some OCD things that I didn't know I had. And I was like, man, I don't know, so I literally had 2 choices. A couple people I knew dropped out, just quit. Like, hey, college isn't for me. I wanted to study this. This isn't me. So I just knew. So I climbed to a certain level, and I'm like, this isn't me no more.
You have a different perspective there.
This is a false summit. Like, I thought I was at the top. Athletic training is not it. Now what? And so this is where the move steps come in. Now I got to take a different perspective. I'm already climbing. So I go back to step 1 and take a different perspective. And so I went to architecture. Wasn't me after 1 semester. I interviewed a bunch of buddies, went to criminal justice. I had a bunch of buddies, probably 8 guys who were in there, and they have diversified ideas about what they're going to do. I'm like, this is cool. In one lecture, we heard a retired FBI guy talk about forensic psych, and he worked with gang profiling and like helping officers understand dangerous gang members and non-dangerous gang members. And that was so fascinating. Afterwards, he had to catch a plane, but I just asked him if he had more time, and he's like, well, I got like an hour and a half if you want to come sit and eat pizza. So we really went to this little, this bison shop where we could get burgers and just hot dogs, and we hang out and eat pizza. And I'm just really writing down as fast as I can, like, what do I need to do? And how do I get this degree? And and that just, boom, it sparked.
Wow.
And then my climb's back on, right? So for literally a year. So I tried 3 majors, and I kind of just bounced around that mountain until I found psych. And then I'm like, okay, I'm on my climb again. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So move steps, that's where you move toward uncertainty. So many people are uncertain, so they sit down and they do this. Like, I don't know if I should go to college because I don't really want to waste money, because like, I don't know. Like, maybe I'll just stay home and I'll figure something out. No, I tell people all the time, like, you don't have to jump into college yet, but maybe take a college class online. You don't have to go sign up and give thousands of dollars to people, but maybe you can do an evening class from your community college. Somehow, some way, we need to figure out if that's
taking that action. And then from there, action opens up the doors of uncertainty. And then from there, you get a new perspective. And then that repeats, right?
Boom, 100%, dude, you get this. Because if you're moving toward the uncertainty, you get a closer look at what you thought you liked. And when you get it in your hands, you're like, nah, it's not me. Okay, that's all right. Let's keep moving. Can you drop the class, or do you have to stick with, okay, keep the class. It's okay. What class could you take next? And sometimes
I'm sorry.
When people are hungry, they'll be like, can I just learn that online? Do I have to wait for a class? I'm like, let's go.
There you go.
And then just tying people into that gut, they just go after it, and then from there, okay, they finally are moving and they get to their spot. Like for me, psych. Now we move to step 3, which is find. And when you have these hurdles in your way, like, you got to write a big paper. I'm like, oh no, like psych is a bunch of papers. And I remember like the first 20-page paper I had to write. And I was like, what did I just do? I want to work with the criminals. Like, I want to like be that dude. People can't figure out a dude. And I come in and be like, I know exactly what's up with this cat,
Yeah.
I wanted to be that guy. And then I'm like, I got to write a paper? Like, nobody said you got to write papers.
Yeah.
This goes back to Allen Iverson. Like, we're talking about practice, bro. Like, we're talking about practice.
Oh man, if you look, I mean, the reason why the book isn't long is similar to that. It's like, I just want to put this out there, get as much value. I got no time for fluff. Here it is. It's short to the point, but it's a punch. But same thing. It's like, oh man, this is a mountain.
Yeah, that's correct. So here's the thing. Like, okay, now I'm finding what's awesome about that. So we all get to this part. We renew our perspective. We move toward uncertainty in the move steps. We finally found what we like, and then we're here and we get shut down by something, and we're like, okay, that sucks. And I'm gonna go, what's awesome about that? And people go, what do you mean? I know that sucks, right? We agree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it sucks, it sucks.
Sucks. I agree. But what's awesome about that? Like, what's awesome about it sucking? Yeah. And people freeze.
Is that to renew their perspective, or is that to find the good in the suckiness?
It's to find the good in the suckiness. Because if we can't find the good in what sucks, they'll bail. If we find the good in what sucks, they can keep climbing in that suck. They can keep finding what's awesome in the midst of that adversity. So
just to continue the climb.
Yeah, to continue the climb. Like, so like when people go, I got an F. Okay, what's awesome about your F? And they go, nothing. No, try again. What's awesome about your F? I'm a flunk out. No, what's awesome about your F? I guess I got to put more time in. Yes. If you can be honest with yourself, like, where'd you mess up? Okay, to be honestly, my homework assignments are good, but I crammed on the tests. Okay. So now, are you going to take this again next semester? Do you want to wait till summer? How are we going to renew this? And they'll just come up with an idea and keep moving. And when they find what's awesome about what sucks, nothing breaks them, because I'm like, okay, so nothing can wreck you. Because if it sucks, you can find out why it sucks and what you can do to renew it.
And it's also almost like a test in the pairing. Like, is this the right path? Is this the right journey? Because if it is the right journey, the right hill, the right climb, who cares how much it sucks?
It really does. And you can use it anywhere. I get so many people who just like will tag me and say something, but here's a funny one. They're a couple, heading out in a van, are going on vacation, and they got a flat tire. I don't even know, like 60 miles outside of town. And it was going to take 45 minutes for some truck to come get to them. And the kids are screaming, it's hot, whatever. And so they make a deal where the wife's going to just go on a run. So she gets dressed, gets out her stuff out of the van, takes off and does a 45-minute run, comes back. They're working on the tire. They hop in the van and go. And she's in a better mood. She's not crabby. And she was like, what's awesome about a flat tire?
You got to look at the good, man. Dude, I absolutely love everything that we talked about today. I'm personally taking notes. I'm going to apply some of these things. Definitely, I'll let you know.
But if for listeners, what's the best way to reach out to learn more about, renewing the mind, about you and your progress, your journey?
Yeah. So right now we've got a podcast called Renewing the Mind Podcast. So if you search Renewing the Mind Podcast, anywhere you go listen to podcasts, you can go to YouTube or Spotify, iTunes. That's where you're going to get right now content, because we're trying to dump out a show every other week right now. We are just moving from 45-minute shows down to 30, 35, trying to just get a little bit more compact. And then I have a Renewing the Mind Clinic. So you can search me on Facebook, Renewing the Mind Clinic. I am Raul Sánchez, PhD on Instagram, and you can get some content there. I'm finishing a book called Resilient Man, which is basically what we talked about today.
I love it.
Having trouble organizing all those pieces, but I'm working on it. It's hard. It's a hard climb for a dyslexic dude, man. I promise you.
Oh my gosh.
I got some editors helping me out, so that's coming. But yeah, so man, I'm just excited to be here on your show, man. I appreciate you, man. We connected fast, in our couple talks. So yeah, appreciate you having me on.
No, it's an honor, man. It's a pleasure having you, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man.
Absolutely.